Hey everybody, DM Gallibond here. Alright, some weeks when you're running your D&D game, you have sessions where everything goes just as planned. But a lot of times, your sessions don't quite go as planned. And yet they can still be a lot of fun. That kind of characterizes the sessions that we had this week. There was a lot of great interaction between the players and a lot of great, moments driven mostly by the players. But things that I thought would take a little bit of time wound up taking a whole lot more time because the players just wanted to go poke every single little nook and cranny in the entire scene. So it turned out to be fun. But let's go ahead and explore how those went. Hi, I'm DM Gallibond. This is Last Week from the Table for October 20th, 2020, where I share with you a recap of everything that happened in the actual play games that I run each week on Roll20. All right, Thursday night we have the Sword Coast Chronicles. That happens every Thursday at 8 p.m. And the party is still on the road from Baldur's Gate to Waterdeep, still with the caravan, where the cultists have some items, or the cultists have their treasure that they have looted. The party at the end of last session had discovered that the cultists have magic items in some of the wagons, and they were trying to figure out how they might go about looking into those wagons and discovering what those magic items are without being detected. So they were discussing that, and their frenemy, not really enemy, not really ally, co-conspirator maybe. Jamna Gleamsilver, she approached them and told them about an idea she had. She knows a town up ahead that the caravan will be coming to in a few days, where her organization, the Zentarum, has a number of serving maids that do more than simply serve drinks and food. They will, for the right price, be your friend. And Jauna knows how lonely caravan drivers tend to get. And so she thought, well, I could go tell my friend. I could run ahead and tell my friend to just get some extra girls ready, so that they could distract the folks on the caravan, and that might give everybody a chance to go uh, poking through the wagons. But before they could get there, the RNG decided that they needed to have a random encounter, and the random encounter it selected for them is one where there's a bunch of mushrooms across the road. They're not just any mushrooms, they are tiny, and I say tiny, like um, foot tall shriekers. And um, of course, rolling for the intelligence score of the workers on the caravan, and they failed. They started going out and stomping on these shriekers because they thought it was funny when they made a noise when they stepped on them. The horses, of course, started eating the mushrooms, which was fine. But the spores have an effect on humanoids. And the effect they have on humanoids, if you expose yourself to them for too long, they will tend to make you really depressed and very sad. So So pretty soon the party found themselves dealing with a whole bunch of workers on the caravan who kind of like were all on downers, man. It was like, oh man, oh, everything is so sad. And so the party was, they were very concerned about these mushrooms, and so they stretch both ways across the road. So I said, well, we're gonna go follow this path of mushrooms and see where they lead. And I'm like, oh gosh, okay, all right. So I had to have them go and find a cave, and then they realized that the cave is filled with one ginormous, huge mushroom. And they noticed the PCs noticed some herbivores, like little rabbits, uh, running around, and the rabbits went up and they started nibbling on the giant shrieker. And the shrieker, of course, uh, because it was disturbed, it shrieked, which for a shrieker that large is not the high pitched shriek normally it is. It was kind of a low rumbling that just shakes the entire ground. And so the players were like, yeah, maybe we don't want to mess with that. Because one of them knew it was a shrieker, and they knew that the shriekers aren't necessarily poisonous, but that they are used as alarm systems for something. And they didn't want to find out if anything was using a gigantic shrieker as an alarm system. So they were like, yeah, let's just get the hell out of here. So they went back to the caravan, and by that time they saw that workers had sort of cleared a path on the road, and realizing that there was nothing they could do except put as much distance as they could between themselves and these mushrooms, they encouraged the caravan foreman to just push the caravan on, and they went on with the night. So then at the end of the session, they finally reached the inn where Jamna Gleamsilver had arranged for her friends' girls to entertain the caravan workers. And one of the party is a bard, and he rolled extremely well on his performance. So he was playing music, which was getting everybody dancing in the inn. Even some of the people who had been depressed for days because they had failed their con saves against the shriekers, shrieker spores. So they were doing that, and the girls were doing their thing, and so the party's artificer used that excuse to go out and start poking around the cultist wagons. And he went into a wagon where he knew there were multiple magical items, and he stole magic items from the cultists. He stole magic items from the cultists. Hmm. So maybe that'll have some consequences down the road, and maybe it won't. But we'll just have to see. In any case, it was a wonderful session, had a lot of fun with it, and the players really enjoyed hamming up and playing all of the different stuff that they were doing, from investigating the stupid mushrooms to dealing with the stuff at the end to sneaking around the caravan wagons, uh, sneaking around the cultist wagons, while the rest of the caravan was otherwise distracted by Jamna's friends' girls. All right. So if you want to find out what happens next uh, in this campaign, please show up on Thursday night at 8 p.m. on Twitch. All right, on Saturday night we are doing the Lost Mine of original D&D. This is a retelling of the Lost Mine of Phandelver with all the monsters replaced by their original D&D counterparts, and the PCs replaced by pre-generated characters that conform to original D&D standards. And we are playing with original D&D rules. So it's a chance for the players to experience D&D the way Dave Arneson and Gary Gygax intended it to be. And it's also an opportunity to see just how different a familiar story can play out because of the different way the rules work. This is on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, again on my Twitch channel here. This week, the party, uh, they had rescued Sildar Hallwinter from goblins at the end of last week, and they were uh, they still haven't confronted Clark, but a couple of the PCs are badly injured, and one of the PCs is actually dead. So they needed to bury that PC. And they decided to retreat from the mine and head to a hunting camp that Sildar knows of nearby. It's like I just had to say, okay, they don't want to go straight into this next fight. That's what they're telling me. So where can I have them go? Well, we'll just have a hunting camp over here, and Sildar will know some of the people who generally use it. So they went off to the hunting camp, and it also seemed like it was going to be a light turnout night. So I wanted to give them the opportunity to get some retainers and talk a little bit about how retainers work in this edition of the game. But as we went along, the entire party, everybody pretty much showed up, and they were able to play. So we did have them talk to some people who were going to come as retainers, but they're probably really not going to need them that much. So the retainers will just sort of be there as backstops in case any of the monsters try to flee, is what I think is going to happen when they actually get into the fight. But when they got there, they had Sildar give them sort of a stick drawing in the dirt, which I went to a new map and I actually drew by hand kind of a rough layout of the whole thing. And he told them where Clark is and who's with Clark and whatnot, because he'd been questioned by Clark, of course, and knows that and knows where the guards are and where the different, what the different areas of the layout are. And then they spent a good hour. The PCs took it on themselves to strategize for a good hour about how they were going to deploy themselves and what they were going to do to defeat each of the defenses at every point. And that was a really, really great part of the session. But of course, it meant that it took a whole long time for anything, and we really didn't have time to get into the fight. But I'm fine with that because it was the players deciding that what they really wanted to do was to plan out something as though it were really kind of a military mission that they were going on. So that's totally cool. Like I said, sometimes things work out where you don't expect things to happen, but it does, and if you just let it go, it becomes something pretty fantastic. And as a DM, when you see players pick up stuff that you've laid out for them and run with it, that's one of the most satisfying things of all. So, The Lost Mine of Original D&D, Saturday night at 7 p.m. If you want to see what happens in their fight with Clark, it would be a great idea to show up on Saturday night and see how that all plays out. All right. Then on Sunday, Walker of Waterdeep, Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. This is the Planeswalking game that I run, and it is on, again, on my Twitch channel. Uh, so every Sunday at 2 p.m., we explore different planes of Magic the Gathering. Actually, we don't. There's an actual arc they're starting. So we go to a plane and we play out an entire arc of the story in each plane. Right now they're in Ravnica and they are hunting down someone who murdered one of the PCs. Yes, 2 of my 3 games a PC has died. One died because AD&D or the original D&D is really, really unforgiving. The other PC died because a player's schedule changed and they can't be in the game anymore. So I took that opportunity just to simply kill their character because I'm just that kind of DM. And they uh, had interactions and meetings with a number of PCs, and they learned that, hey, a lot of the PCs that we know seem to know, or a lot of the NPCs that we know seem to know each other, and they seem to have multiple layers of connections with each other, just because of the way all the silly guild stuff in Ravnica works. So, um, they got help ostensibly from House Demir, as well as from the Azoria Senate and from the Izzet League. It turns out some of the people they know from the Izzet and the Izzet and the Azoria Senate probably are, have Demir plants somewhere in their organization. Who would have known? So the um, they also went down and talked to an old friend who is from the Gruul clan, or not the Gruul clans, Golgari Swarm. And there was a death priest that they met when they first got to Ravnica, many, many, many months of real time play ago. Um, and they talked to her, and she explained to them. Basically, she helped them get to some place that they needed to go by using the Undercity routes. And she sent guides with them because there's no way they would be able to find their own way there. It was far too convoluted and complicated. Um, they came at the end of the session to a lab where they found kind of something about what's been going on behind the assassins. They found a huge lab full of machinery, and in this one big giant vessel that's about 40 feet tall and 10 feet wide, it's a big crystal vessel that is reinforced with brass bands around it. Um, there is some kind of huge giant larvae that is being grown in that vessel, and there's another machine with a crystal dome, and there's all these like little wisps of light inside that crystal dome, and occasionally those wisps of light get sucked into tubes that get sent in and then absorbed into that grub. So apparently that those wisps of light are either food or some sort of energy that is powering that grub. And an assassin that was trying to kill one of the party members had a small crystal orb that seems suspiciously close to the large crystal orb where those little lights are floating around. So they're starting to get the idea that, ooh, this may be something really nasty. Um, they haven't quite put two and two together yet, and they haven't quite figured it all out. At least I don't think all of them have. But we got through one round of the fight with the people that are running this lab, and in the process, the cleric uh, unleashed a unleashed an area of effect weapon that or an area of effect attack that wound up killing all of the poor commoners that were working in the lab. And so then he was like, "Oops," but he was mainly meaning to attack the bad guys, but which he did, and he did some damage to them. But because all of the lab technicians are all commoners with just 4 hit points each, they were all killed instantly by his attack. And he's like, "Oh crap!" So that was fun. It's always fun when you let your cleric kill innocent civilians. The But if you want to find out how the rest of that fight plays out, it would be great to show up on Sunday at 2 p.m. For the next session of Walker of Waterdeep. And that, of course, is again on my Twitch channel. All right. Well, that's going to be it for this week. I've been DM Gallibond. If you like everything that we're doing on this channel, please down below click the subscribe button, like the video, share the video, click the post notification bell so that you get notified every time we put new content up. And always remember to try to make your D&D games memorable, so that you can have tales from your table that you can share as well. Good night, everybody.